Hey guys, it's GHP, and welcome back to another spoiler review video, and I guess in this case, a news video. Um, Now for those of you who were watching my stream today, June 1st, I have already filmed this video. I wasn't happy with how it turned out. We did it live on Twitch, so I'm going to redo it. I don't think I got enough of my thoughts across on things, so let's try again. So first, let's talk about the announcement we got yesterday, May 31st. It was about Direwolf Digital's future. Now, the thing to note is we know they are no longer developing Elder Scrolls Legends. Now, because of this, that means their group of people who are currently designing their games, now it looks like they could be able to focus more on Eternal, as this is their only other card game that I know of. Clank is a board game, and I know they're developing that too. But for card game sections, we have this. Because of this, that means more people should be working on this game. Hopefully that means new ideas, etc. And that's exciting. For at least me, someone who's primarily based around Eternal, and obviously I care more about Eternal than Elder Scrolls, and I'm sure Elder Scrolls is going to be fine. But they also announced that they're going to be doing tournaments with sorry, my nose is itchy, with prizing and things like that, which is absolutely amazing. We have the ETS now, but Direwolf Digital supported tournaments would be the best thing possible I can think of, and that's saying something. I can think of a lot of amazing things. I would be super pumped if that is what ends up happening. Hopefully they pull through on that. Besides that, we know that Set 4 is now known as the Fall of Argenport, which, cool. Not a huge fan of the name, I'll admit it, but I'm not really one to care about names too much, and it's probably not something I should think fully about or review. So I'm really excited. Hopefully this is a big thing for us and our channel, where we can look at growing the channel even more, get new players to come in, and hopefully myself and the rest of Team Rankstar can take advantage of this and create the best place for new players and experienced players to come and enjoy themselves. So, without further ado, let's get into the spoilers. Speaking of Team Rankstar, our friends The Manted Man and the Platypus King on their podcast, The Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast, got to spoil this card recently. Let's review it. It's a 4-mana double fire weapon, +1/+1, charge. That's terrible. Like, the rate of that is terrible. And 4-mana weapon that gives charge, the odds of that, you being able to play a unit and this in the same turn is a little bit difficult. But now let's get to the text. At the start of your turn, sacrifice the wielder to play a random unit from your deck. Then play a copy of this on it. If it ever matters, it's a copy, so this weapon does get sacrificed. You go like Smuggler Stash, like 2 back. But this is a very powerful effect that really to me only works at like a token show where you play no other creatures except like, I don't know, Caleb or something. Just this absurd top-end that you could cheat out. And then that's the only thing you could hit. That's one way to look at this card. That's probably its best scenario. But I think this card is a meme card. I think it is awesome. I think it's awesomely designed, etc. But it says at the start of your turn. So, this weapon costs a lot of mana for a very minimal effect in that turn. Sure, if your unit leaves, you could do some busted things, but I think the general gist with this weapon is going to be that this card doesn't do enough. And that's kind of sad, because this card is amazing when it comes to just, like, the potential it has, but I think this card currently doesn't do enough when it doesn't do anything when it enters, and I think it's going to be too hard to keep a unit alive that doesn't get any buff from this. There is one scenario that could change this, and that's if we get token generation spells that create tokens with Aegis. Not only does that not really sound fun in my opinion, so I'm kind of hoping we don't get that, but if we do, that's what we would need to make a card like this better in my opinion. There also could be cards that set to, make this better. That's why I'm going to be doing a spoiler review for the whole set once we see the whole set. And I might steal what Trump does for Hearthstone and do a spoiler review video once we get like a month in of all the spoilers that I reviewed. Well, I guess not spoilers, the whole set. But yeah, I don't think this card's very good, but it will see play in some fun decks that are going to be they're going to be amazing to play. I just don't think this card's great. Now let's look at the upgraded form, or I guess the non-power form of the Clan Monument. So at 5 mana, it transforms into this fast spell. So it's 200 primal, deal 5 to an attacking enemy. So it's a little better than Lightning Strike. I see a lot of people have been very hyped about this card. I think this card is very good. I'm going to gonna have to stop you right there. This card's unplayable. I love monuments. I think they're a cool idea. The problem is, and I said this before, aggro decks don't want depleted power. Mid-range decks really need to curve out. Getting extra depleted power in your deck is not good. Control decks want to have more power than 5. So, what you end up creating is this awkward scenario where all the deck, even though this card is very powerful, all the archetypes, because combo doesn't actually get to exist at Eternal, they all don't want these depleted monuments. And that's the problem. For you to make me want to play a monument or like any of these style of cards, the other card is called Clan Standard, sure. So it's going to be a set of standards. For you to make me want to play standards, it's going to take a lot because these cards have to be very pushed. Otherwise, the opportunity cost to put in your deck is not worth it. And I don't think this is what you're talking about when you say pushed cards. I think this card is awesome. I love the idea of getting these spell monuments, but realistically, they probably need to be better than this if you want them to see constructed play. Now, these will be fine at draft stuff, of course, just like monuments are. And this one will be quite good at draft. But I think for constructed, this card is just lacking too much. This isn't going to I'm not going to screw up my curve to play Clan Tactic. So let's move on to our next card, which is, where is it? Alright, I don't know the order of these, so I'm just gonna, oh, yes I do. Here you go, here's Ken. Excuse me, why are you so big? Alright, Kenna, Shaman of the Scale. 7 mana, triple primal, 5/6. Killer. Okay, so we're like 1 mana extra Thunderstrike Dragon, but there's some additional things to go with that. So Thunderstrike Dragon flies and has specifically Echo, which affects the cost of the card. But 7 mana, 5/6 is pretty bad. Even with Killer, that's a pretty bad stat line. Before we read the rest of the card, it is a dragon. That's definitely relevant. Because the dragon deck right now is Skycrag, and it doesn't have the best interaction. So when you play a spell, Kenna gets +2/+2 and flying this turn. So it has super prowess and tribute. So when you play this card, if you have discarded a card, or if a unit you control died, you may draw a spell from your void. So I think that is very hard to tribute. I think tribute is a mechanic that's actually quite hard to trigger. I say that because if you know if tribute cards become a thing, and on turn 7, I attack you with my, I don't know, Temple Scribe into your board of 89 power. Well, you can just block it freely, and I can get this effect, or you could say, well, I'll just take 1, because that's not a big deal. That's the thing. This card is, although it's powerful, tribute's very hard to trigger in my opinion. So the prowess on this is nice, but I think at the end of the day, this card's going to be too much mana for what it does. And it's kind of sad. Cards like this are awesome. I love these cards that just have like layers upon layers upon layers of depth to them. But this card just isn't there in my opinion. As cool as it is, I'm not in love with it, and I don't think it's going to see constructed play. The only decks that really could play it, in my opinion, are dragons, and then you're competing with Mistveil Drake at the 7 mana slot, and I'm not sure this is actually going to be better depending on how the game plays out, depending on the game state. I also don't know if that deck is going to play a lot of spells, etc. But I think without this, unless you can make this card cheaper, I don't think it's very good. I don't think anything like Elysian Midrange wants a card like this. So I don't think many promo decks are going to want it. Film Control certainly doesn't. It's too hard to get the tribute. If it was just a summon effect, it probably could see more play. But I think as a tribute, this card's just too hard to trigger and get full value out of. So let's look at the cards that we got today. Let's look at this one. Aerial Battle. So it is a 3-mana double primal spell. Deal 5 damage to each unit with flying. So I already got my favorite card for maybe biased reasons, Ranger's Choice. Now I got this. Rest in peace TJP in mid-range versus Found. That matchup got a lot worse. I don't think this card's playable on ladder. And I say that because unless we're in a field of mono TJP, or, mono Flyers decks is what I'm trying to say, this card just doesn't do enough. It's going to miss against Skycrack. It's going to miss against certain decks. But oh boy, am I putting this in my sideboards. You could bring it in against something like Film Control and hit basically all the win cons besides Feast Caller. You could bring this in against TJP and it gets most of the deck. You bring it against probably every Huru deck that's ever going to exist. And it's going to do work. It is Hailstorm on steroids against Flyers, and I think this card is very good against the Flyers decks, and I think this card is a sideboard card, but it's going to see a ton of play, especially in decks that struggle to beat TJP. Even Felt Control, even though it kills some of their units, is probably going to play it themselves, just because it does a lot in the TJP match, presuming we just added this to the game as it currently is. Obviously, we make all these deck references, but if we don't have any tools or any decks we need to beat like that, like imagine TJP is just dead, well then this conversation is not relevant. So if we added this to the game currently, it would maybe go in Felt Control, it could go in other blue decks, and it could beat up decks like TJP. So I think this card's going to see plenty of sideboard play, especially if there's a Flyers Matters deck that's good. And I suspect there will be, unless that deck gets like no new tools in the next set, and then every other deck gets tools. But that's just like a sad way for its life to go. Now, what are the other cards we've got to be looking at today? Do I want to show you Disappointment yet? Fine, I'll show you Disappointment. Alright, Silverwing Augmentor. So it's a 7-mana 3/3 flyer, which is an absolutely atrocious rate. It's a Valkyrie. Doesn't have Bond. 7. You may give another unit +5/+5 this turn. So I'm just going to give you the spoiler. I don't think this card's anywhere near playable and constructed. Also, you can't even play this as like a ramp card, so you can't go play it, buff it, bond something. Like, it has to be another unit. This card is just so bad. Like, I'm not going to give you a long review on this. And it's not even that good in draft, because it's so expensive. Wow, this card is that the worst card they've shown us so far? Probably not. We have some pretty bad cards they've shown us so far. But that's fine, I guess. So what are the other cards I have to review? I feel like there was 3 in the article, right? There was 3 in the article and I can't find it. But this is awkward. Alright, I guess I'm going to have to do some editing in this video, and we'll talk about Long Live the Queen. Alright, there was 3, and I'll talk about it in a sec. Because we can't talk about Berserk yet, we don't know what it does. So there's a 5-mana spell that gives everything Berserk, and we don't know what Berserk is. So I'll review it when we know that. 4-mana Huru, Warp. Negate an enemy spell, draw a card, fast spell. Card's awesome. Card's cool design. I can only imagine basically drawing 2 cards, warping it off the top, countering your Channel the Tempest, drawing another card, feeling like a genius. But really, when I'm no longer in Magical Christmas Land, I see this card stuck in my hand for 8 turns. My opponent beats me down with an Oni Ronin. Yeah, that's what I think. I don't think this card's playable on ladder. I think it's so much mana. It has no other application to like unseal hits permafrost, for example, and curses. This has none of those effects. The warp and stuff is nice, and I could see this card seeing sideboard play and like Hero Control for the control matches. But I think besides that, this card's not playable. It's absolutely amazing design. I love cards like this. It's probably one of my favorite cards in the game right now. But I think this card is just this card is just not there. We are not in a game right now where countering enemy spells is that good. We're playing a lot of creature combat, playing a lot of inefficient cards in general, like Finest Hour. So I think this card's not going to see a lot of play, even though it's probably one of the coolest cards the game has to offer. If we ever got into a very spell-heavy metagame, let's say we're playing against a lot of decks like Moment and things like that, I could see this card seeing some play in maybe a very specific metagame where everything is super slow. But if everything becomes super slow, then the best deck to play is probably the Oni Ronin deck. And then we're back in this circle where, well, everyone's dying to Oni Ronins, well, let's have some mid-range, you know, like, I don't know if that metagame actually could plausibly exist. So I think this card's cool, but I think it's just a sideboard card. So that is all the spoilers for today, guys. I want to say thank you guys very much for watching. Thanks for all the support lately. Really excited for where the game is going. Really excited about the changes with DWD. And some of these cards are really cool design-wise, and it makes me excited for set 4, which we now know is called the Fall of Argenport.